Oh, I'm sorry, James. I know what that feels like when you've been trying to track an animal and all of a sudden you're sort of pipped at the post in terms of finding them. I know exactly what it feels like. And to be fair, those tracks were confusing. On the one road, they were going in the complete opposite direction to where these lions are, so there must have been more than 2 males on Djuma last night. I guess the other male moved off further towards the east. But there we go. Could there be a more spectacular sight than 2 male lions in this glorious golden light? And just off the top of my head, definitely looks as though Mufmo is there. My next guess would be to say that this is Tinyo that we're looking at. I haven't had a chance to closely look at his face. The sun is right in my eyes. Hello, boy. That looks like him, does it not? Is he giving himself a thorough paw cleaning? So these are our resident dominant males, the Birmingham Boys, or 2 of them. There's actually 4 of them in total. And between the 4 of them, once 5, very sadly, but between the 4 of them, they've established themselves an absolutely massive territory that encompasses the whole of Djuma, most of Arathusa, into Buffelshoek. Just listening to the go-away birds, sorry. Alarm calling. Yes, encompasses right down to Cheetah Plains, sometimes into Mala Mala, the whole of Torchwood. So they really do have an absolutely massive territory. They have fathered cubs. Oh dear boy, that's not very convenient at all. Sorry everybody, we'll just have to put up with not being able to see their faces for now. They have fathered several sets of cubs, both by the Nkuhumas and by the Styx lions, and it is always wonderful to encounter them. It's been a joy to watch them grow into their various fatherly roles as they have, and also just watch them fill out, their manes getting bigger and darkening. All in all, they've become a true force to be reckoned with in this particular area. Now, last time I saw these 2, they were starving hungry. They don't look as hungry as they did then. I mean, they really were looking thin-bellied, their hips were sticking out. They just looked in need of a very good meal. And that belly looks much fuller than when I last saw them. Alright, this is a very tricky position. I wonder, I'm just trying to see, sorry, there's my head, getting my head in the way. I'm just trying to see whether or not we can actually try and find a different position to view them by. But unfortunately it might be a little bit tricky. There's a guarri bush in the way, and if I drive... Boys, this is a very, very inconvenient position for you to be in. They found themselves the only patch of shade right outside Gallego Pan. Now don't forget to send through your questions on the subject of these lions, or anything else, I guess, on #SafariLive on Twitter. I think the only thing I can try and do is shuffle forward a little bit, because this view is not particularly good. To Caro, while we look at our Birmingham Boys. Caro, you want to know whether or not these are brothers or cousins. I'm actually not sure about the direct relationship between Mufmo and Tinyo. Tragic if we had a bumper bashing in a lion sighting. Let me just move a bit further back. The way in which they form coalitions is they could be brothers, they could be cousins. In this case, we know that they're directly related to each other, but that isn't always the case. Cheers, guys. Morning, how are you? Good. Thanks. Cheers. There we go. Problem solved. What was I talking about? Oh, yes. So male lions... Let's get into position and we can watch them. When a male lion leaves a pride with several male lions of, hello boy, of his own age, he's actually got a ready-made coalition. And they could be cousins, they could be brothers. As you know, generally speaking, lionesses will synchronize their estrus cycles so as to produce several litters of cubs at once that they will then allosuckle. So the cubs are as close as can be, and if you've got a collection of male cubs, excuse me, they could be siblings and they could be cousins, they'll move out together once they reach the appropriate age. However, if it is one lone male lion, as was the case with the Nkuhuma male junior, and they leave home, they will quite happily form a coalition with another young lone male or a couple of young lone males. Lions are not strict about being related to the coalition members that they're in a coalition with. And that's because everybody gets a chance to mate. So the advantage of numbers outweighs the desperate desire to pass on one's own genetics over everybody else. But we know that the Birmingham Boys are related. Those of you who perhaps have dug into their history a little bit, perhaps you can tell me... Sorry, I think I swallowed a fly. Or a bug of some kind. Maybe you can let me know whether or not they are brothers or if they're cousins. For some reason, I have a feeling that they're cousins, because I actually think there's a slight age difference between the two of them, but I'm not 100% sure on that. They're all roughly the same age, and Sugu was the eldest when well, obviously he's still the eldest. That doesn't change, but he's the eldest of them. And I think he's probably about 6 months older than the rest of them. So it's Sugu, Nena, Mufmo, and Tinyo. They seem to be sleeping off full bellies. I wonder what they've been eating. They've definitely got very, very round bellies indeed. Sure. Big sigh from our male lions. And it's a pity that we only found them at this time of the morning, because it's starting to heat up significantly. The cloud cover that we started with has all but vanished, which means this is probably what they're going to do for the rest of the morning. Have a jolly good snooze. I did see an Inyala walking in this direction, so you never know. There's the possibility of an animal coming to have a drink at Galago Pan and getting ambushed by them, but it seems relatively unlikely, because once a male lion goes to sleep, that's generally the way that they spend their day. You can see them rapidly panting. Very, very good question. Now, VJ would like to know what my favourite moment or most memorable sighting is with these male lions. And I'm humming about it because I've actually had many moments with these lions that have been truly spectacular. Now, I'm struggling to pick just one. I have to say that a lot of the sightings when these boys came in were truly spectacular, in the sense that they were very, very active all of the time. There was lots of roaring going on. I think one of my favourite sightings was when they came in and chased the Nkuhumas off a buffalo kill. And then they didn't even feed off it, but there was so much roaring around, and they were so, in those days, now they've got this very relaxed, comfortable, dominant male lion feeling about them. But in those days, everywhere they went, they trotted in a way that suggested massive levels of testosterone. I don't know how else to tell you this, but essentially when a male coalition takes over a territory, they are pumped full of testosterone, and you could see it in their body language. They had something rough and tumble and ready to fight about them. So I think those are probably some of my most memorable sightings with them. There was also the fight that the Nkuhumas had that I was with VM for during a school drive, funnily enough. There was a massive fight between, I think it was Tinyo and Mfumo, over one of the lionesses, but the lionesses were so angry that they joined in because they had the cubs to protect, and it turned into utter chaos. And the noise and the roaring and all of that comes together, it's awe-inspiring. And then I've got one more absolutely favourite sighting. It involves the Nkuhumas as well, but these boys were there and they were kind of the instigators of it. It was when we were doing the first Mara week, where James was in the Mara for a week, and we were doing the late night drives with the infrared. And Dave and I were sitting in complete pitch blackness. The only way that I knew there were lions walking past me was I could hear of their feet touching the ground next to me. Could not see a thing. The only thing I could see was what the camera was looking at on my monitor. And all of a sudden, these boys started to roar, and it was back in the day when all four of them were on. It was one of the last times I saw all four of them on Djuma, and they were roaring away. And it was just the most spectacular moment, because the boys started to roar, and then the ladies joined in, and then the cubs joined in. And there was just this cacophony of lion roars all around us. And the entire vehicle was shaking with the power of the noise that they were making. And I don't think I've ever had that many lions around me roaring. I've seen all 5 of them roar together on quarantine. That was also spectacular. Oh dear, now I'm giving you a list of memorable memories, but I can't help it. We've just had so many magic moments with them. But all of them roaring around us, and the cubs, their cubs, joining in. It was spectacular. Truly, truly spectacular. There was another time where, as I said, on quarantine, all 5 of them roaring around us when they first took over. We went out after the drive had finished. It was back when Scrapper or Tokolosh was still alive. And I remember distinctly everybody on the back of the vehicle going into a sort of awed and hushed silence when these lions roared around us. All 5 boys calling together. It's a spectacular experience. And then there's just the everyday mundane ones. Watching the cubs play on top of them, watch them how tolerant they were with them. Now, there's another person who has actually spent a great deal of time with these lions, and I'm sure Brent perhaps has some memorable stories with them to share as well. Now, the lions were right over there, so there was a chance, and they were watching the elephant carefully. There was a good chance that if he'd gone that way, he absolutely would have chased them. Elephants don't like predators. It is just one of those things. Particularly wild dogs, but lions as well. And they'll go and they'll chase them, and the lions kind of just jog away. So there you go. Now, Sammy, you want to know if the lions would be a threat to that elephant? Not really, no. There are lions that hunt elephants. And by the way, I'm going to have to leave these lions now because there are lots of other people that want to come and see them. Lions can hunt elephants. They do so generally when they're really desperate for it. It's usually specialized prides that have learned to hunt elephants. And generally when they tackle something, they'll go for a young bull that is on the outskirts of the herd, that is just at that point of leaving the elephant herd, because the herd's less likely to band together and to protect them. And even then, 2 male lions are a big thing, but not quite big enough to take out an elephant. For that, you need numbers. You really, really do. All right, we're going to leave these lions for now, since our Ellie has moved off. And I kind of actually just shouldered my way back into the sighting because the people hadn't got here yet. But I did say I was on my way so that they could come in.